Lieutenant Kang was not here, and neither was Officer Min Yun nor Officer Ji Yun. I was alone in the office working on the suspect's statement and feeling a little lonely here. The lieutenant had told me to make him pay. Officer Yi Yun had said to me that Lieutenant Kang used to tamper with the amount of goods and money when dealing with smuggling cases so that the criminals would get a heavier sentence. I don't think that's okay. But this guy was already an accomplice to a murder. How could I make the case worse? If I have to switch around the statements here to make this worse, I didn't know what to do. I was scratching my head when the phone on the lieutenant's desk rang. It was an anonymous tip to a murder. However, Unit 4 usually handled cases related to gang violence or drugs. Why would we get a tip about a murder? I wasn't sure how to deal with this situation. Although I didn't have much at hand to deal with right now anyways. My heart of justice was beating with excitement. I grabbed my gun and walked out. I was about to take the stairs when I heard someone yelling loudly behind me. I turned around. It was Lieutenant Kim Young-ho of Unit 3. Lieutenant Kim asked if I was heading to the murder scene reported by the anonymous tip earlier. He said I should not go alone, and that he was coming along with me so that we would look after each other. It seemed like a good idea. We got into his patrol car and started the siren. 20 minutes later, we skidded off the road, by the sounds of it. We arrived at the apartment building of the scene. It was a 2-floor rental building. I could vaguely see fire through the windows of one apartment in the middle of the 2nd floor. Something wasn't right. Last time I checked, apartments weren't supposed to be on fire. Anybody home in there? I knocked on the door. There was no response. I knocked even harder and yelled some more, but still nothing. Lieutenant Kim stopped me and said we should just wait for the apartment manager to open the door for us. The whole apartment had been engulfed in fire by that time. When the manager turned the key and touched the doorknob, he suddenly jumped back like he had been shocked. I stepped ahead and grabbed the knob. It felt like a soldering iron burning my palm. I bit my own lips to stop myself from screaming. Why? Really? There's not like a piece of clothing or something to shield you from the... Okay. As soon as I forced the door open, flames leapt out of the apartment along with a wave of heat. Yeah, good job giving oxygen to the fire. I could almost smell my hair getting burnt. Lieutenant Kim and I had to take a few steps back. If the tips had been true, there might still be people inside. I took a step towards the door, but Lieutenant Kim grabbed me. Are you crazy? Look at the fire! You'll be burned to ashes, you idiot! We've been here for over 20 minutes. Whoever might still be in there is already dead. He made a good point. We waited until the firefighters put out the fire before we finally went into the apartment here. Everything inside had been scorched. All of the furniture had been incinerated. We found 2 bodies that were completely unrecognizable due to fire. One in the bathroom, the other in the living room. We had to send them back for autopsies. We didn't learn the identities of the bodies until the next day. I could not have imagined that they were Officer Min Yun and Lieutenant Kang. I should have charged inside. I could have saved them. I mean, the point about like you're 20 minutes into the fire, I don't think there's much to do at that point. 2 p.m. The 32nd floor of the building, the women's restroom. I pressed the button on my phone, timed to the movement of the hands on my watch. Almost immediately, I heard a muffled boom from the bottom of the building. The entire building shook slightly for a few seconds and made a subtle grinding sound. I heard the latest instructions coming from the building security team leader on the radio broadcast through their dedicated security channel. He wanted 2 guards on the top floor and the rest on the ground floor. I turned off the radio and walked out of the bathroom into a janitor's uniform. You didn't walk into a uniform, you walked in a uniform. I blended into a crowd of panicking and confused salarymen. Then I ducked into the security stairwell and went up to the 33rd floor, the highest floor of the building, which was reserved exclusively for the chief executives of the corporation. I reached for the knife hidden at my waist. I planned to ambush the 2 guards before they noticed me. However, there was no one in the hallway. I opened the door to the president's office. There was no one there either. Well, who am I to stab now? I began to scour through the office. When I opened the closet, a body rolled out from inside. The door was kicked open. I took 2 steps back, then sprinted forward and burst through the window. What? I held onto the rope with my right hand and descended all the way to the ground floor from the outside of the building. A couple of people had seen me while I was dropping down and let out some admiring and terrified gasps. But their attention was soon pulled away by the explosion from the top floor. The body in the closet had been my target tonight, the president of the Yes. Someone had gotten to him before I could. What I couldn't understand, though, was why a bomb was tied to his body. Because they were after you. It was the kind of bomb that would detonate upon disturbance, or when the timer ran out, one of the two. It was much more powerful than the one I had made. I could only think of one reason. The other assassin had known that someone else was after the same target, so it had been a prank. In fact, my mission tonight was more than just killing Liang. There was something else. I was supposed to retrieve a black metal box that he had. I had no idea what was inside the box, but it must be something extremely important. However, I was afraid that the box had fallen into the hands of the other assassin too. Who could this person be? Had he known that Ray had also been looking for the same box? Was the prank specifically designed for me? I don't think you can call a bomb a prank. Pain from my left arm interrupted my thought. Only then did I realize that my left arm had been blown into pieces. My left palm had completely disappeared. Alicia. Well, how are we gonna fix this one? What if we engulf this apartment in fire? And then you burst out. The door was kicked open. And then a body rolls out over here. That seems to make sense, right? I held onto the rope with my right hand, descended all the way to the rim of the building. It had been going well for me tonight. At first, I had accidentally found the metal box. Well, what a coincidence. That Ray had asked me to find when I dropped down to the floor to get away from the heavy smoke. It had been glued to the bottom of the couch. But when I was about to escape through the window, the guards that had broken into the office fired and hit me in my right hand. I had to drop the box and leave Liang's office. Every mission relies on skill 70% of the time, the rest of it depends on your luck. Ray had taught me that. I was out of luck that night. Later that evening, an informant notified me that the target, Liang Xilong, had already been killed before I had even gotten there. That meant that there had been someone else who had the same plan and the same intentions as Ray. Perhaps they had been looking for the metal box too. The next day I snuck into the building again, but the black metal box was nowhere to be found. Okay, that didn't go well then. I recognized the man lying on the floor. Officer Min Yun's eyes were wide open. There was a dark brown stain near his chest on his dark-colored shirt. The blood had already dried. Judging from the amount of blood and the shape of it, it must be a gunshot wound. Why would he be here? Where on earth was this place? What happened to him? Where am I? I looked around the living room. A lot of empty beer bottles were scattered on the floor, most of which were empty. Some of them were not empty though, and the beer had spilled all over the place. It was a travesty. There were still a lot of burning candles on the floor too. Lieutenant Kang is passed out over here. I heard Lieutenant Kim's voice coming from the bathroom. Lieutenant Kang? Why was he here too? I got back up and walked to the bathroom. When I walked past a dresser in the living room, I noticed I knocked over a picture frame. I flipped it over. It was a photo of Lieutenant Kang with a woman in her 30s. Lieutenant Kang looked much younger in the photo. He even seemed a little shy. Both of them were in uniforms with their guns holstered. I couldn't look away from the woman in the photo for a long time. Then I finally remembered. She had been the previous lieutenant of Unit 2. Yes, a legendary figure in the Busan police precinct. She was a beautiful woman, but more importantly, she was considered to be better than any of the male officers on the force. She was famous for being incredibly courageous and decisive. She was the idol of almost every young police officer. Even during my days in the academy, a lot of my classmates had her photos in the private collections. That was how I had recognized her. That's creepy. The photo had obviously been taken before she had been killed in the line of duty. Lieutenant Kang looked like he had just joined the police too. Perhaps he was a fan of hers too. There was nothing strange about that. So this might be Lieutenant Kang's home. Why would Min Yun's body be here then? I suddenly remembered. I have a lot of suddenly remembering things. The anonymous tip, and I was starting to get more and more suspicious. Officer Min Yun had been shot. He was still in his undercover outfit, which I had seen a few times. I went back to check on his body and there was nothing else in his pockets, but I did notice a keychain attached to his waist. I heard Lieutenant Kim walking over from the bathroom. He must be wondering why I hadn't responded yet. I quickly took the keychain off and hid it. Please, Buddha, please bless me so that I can find the truth and avenge Officer Min Yun. Oh! We got an S-ring over there, because I was just about to say, what if we take the body from over here and just plant it back over here again? Okay, so... what if we do this? There we go. Held onto a rope, descended all the way to the ground and building. I was also carrying my left arm and I accidentally found the black box when heavy smoke glued to the bottom of the couch. Although this guy was nowhere to be found, Ray had instructed me that the metal box was my top priority. The guards broke into the office just after I had escaped through the window. I could hear him directing their whole team to go after me, but it was already too late. I started my motorcycle and went into full throttle. Minutes later, I had arrived at the back alley behind Melody Hall. Ray opened the box in front of me. Inside the box were 2 cubes the size of a palm with different markings on them. Ray gave me a reward after he made sure the items were intact. After that day, I had a dragon tattoo put on my stomach to commemorate the day, you know. Ray said that I had earned that mark as evidence that I had truly become his. Ew. Okay, well, the double S-ring, there we go. Uh-oh, cutscene. How did it end up like this? Because I'm at the controls! That's how it ends up like this. Oh! It was just a nightmare. Oh no, it was more than that. Everything has already happened in reality, but I have tried everything I could. I thought it was raining. However, everything outside looks exactly the same as when I first woke up after losing my memories. The sky is still red. Snow keeps falling down. Even the snow looks red, perhaps because of the light. There doesn't seem to be anybody in the buildings on either side of the street. And there aren't any people on the street. There aren't any animals either, no small birds or little dogs. Nothing. There aren't even trees or grass. The rain only appears in my dreams. It has never stopped snowing outside the window. Is this what the gods' world looks like? I wonder what the humans' world looks like right now. Yo, you're up, Billy. Huh? What time is it now? 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning?! Fuck, I'm going back to bed. That's way too early. It's only 4. Nothing seems to change outside the window. I can't even tell whether it's morning or not. The humans' world has days and nights, right? Why don't we have that? That's because we live in a different world. Willie, I want to go for a walk outside. I'm afraid you can't do that. Why not? To us, there is no outside. Everything you see from the window is just an illusion. This house is all there is to our world. Are you telling me that everything that I see on the outside of the window is fake? That's correct. Everything outside is fake. Even the house that we are living in right now doesn't really exist. All of this is built by our combined imagination. Our world and the humans' world have no intersection at all. Not in time, nor in space. Well, could we go to their world at all? By teleportation, for example, like you did earlier. Or maybe there is a door of some kind that could open to any other place you want to go to. Why do you want to go to their world so much? I haven't been feeling too well recently. This job is not like what I first imagined it would be. I thought being a god would be all cool and shit. I thought I could give everyone a perfect happy ending. But tragedies keep happening one after another. I don't know what I have done wrong. Do I not understand them well enough because I'm not human? Or is it because I'm not familiar enough with their world so I can't understand the consequences of my decisions? So, I quit. So you want to go there and witness their lives for yourself? Yeah. Unfortunately, we are unable to go to their world. Besides, we don't really need to. We are gods. All we need to do is fulfill the humans' wishes. It is not our duty to create a wonderful world based on our judgment. You have too much kindness in you, and that's why you are overthinking it. No matter what decisions you make, the humans will accept them. Simply because they don't have any other options. But we're gods! How can we be so careless about their sincere wishes? Humans never truly understand what they want ever. They get themselves into trouble, but they are afraid to take responsibility for their actions and choices. That's why they always hope the gods can fix everything for them. God will help me. God will bless me. They are nothing but a bunch of cowards and losers. As long as we help them resolve their immediate dilemmas, we have done our job. As for the other problems that lie in their future, those have nothing to do with us. The bottom line is this: even if we don't help them at all, they have no right to complain. After all, we are gods and they are just mere humans. Therefore, no matter what you do, you are always right. You will never be wrong. Yeah. I understand it might be a little difficult for you to accept this right now. You should just go and take a nap and get some rest. We've talked enough today. I'll go make us some breakfast. Was I really overthinking things? Well, maybe I have to do it myself. Do what yourself make breakfast? Breakfast? Do I get breakfast? Do I zoom out and get breakfast? Nope. Okay, well. Oh god, 3 letters?
하나님, 나를 도와주세요.
젠장, 어떻게 이럴 수가?
No puedo regresar.
Huh. Well, they seem to all be aquafuckle to deal with. Let's see. I'll do Park Sang-yeon and Kang Bak-ya's, and then we'll save Alicia's for next episode. My name is Park Sang-yeon. I'm 14 years old. I lived in a mental hospital. The vice president of the hospital was Dr. Lee Yeon-suk. He was also my supervising doctor. Ever since I had been sent there at 12 years old, he had been this. I used to cry out loud in my room and hide, but they would scream at me to shut up. I tried keeping a diary to relieve my stress, but I realized the nurses would read it behind my back. When I was feeling extremely desperate, I would pick up the pen and this. I forced myself not to cry no matter how painful it was. It was an exercise. After a while, I gradually became numb to the pain. That way, it would be less painful when I had to go to that room again. Oof. Most of the nurses in the hospital were women, but I did come to know one male nurse. His name was Lee Young-chol. Again, sorry for mispronouncing. The other nurses said that he was the nephew of Lee Yeon-suk, and that was the only reason he got the job. Every Tuesday night, he would take me to Lee Yeon-suk's office. He would then just wait outside until it was over. He would then bring me back to my room. One day he noticed my scars. He could tell that those were not caused by his uncle. After he found out that I had been hurting, he decided to confiscate my pen. Coward. He knew what his uncle had been doing to me. I also knew that he had read my diaries too. He was too afraid to stop his uncle, but he would take away my pen. I closed the door. I threw myself at his feet, held onto his legs, and began crying at the top of my lungs. As expected, he panicked and touched my head with his hands, trying to console me. Since that moment, he had become an ally of mine. As an ally, Lee would sometimes use his limited power to get me some small privileges. For instance, I could walk in the garden a little longer than the others. If I could hold on a little longer, maybe I could even find a chance to escape from here. Just when the tiniest ray of hope was beginning to show, I heard a piece of horrible news. My mom had died. I overheard it from the nurses. None of them would even tell me the news to my face, but they would gossip about me behind my back, commenting on what a poor child I was. I didn't want their pathetic sympathy. I just wanted Mom. For the last 2 years, no one had ever visited me. Why had Mom never come to visit me? I knew why. Must have been something to do with Dad. He sold me off first, kept torturing Mom at home, and prevented her from visiting me. He was not my dad. He was a bad person. A monster. I wanted to kill him. I pretended that I hadn't heard the news. Every night, I would cover my face with my blanket so the nurses wouldn't notice me crying. In secret, however, I began to plan my escape. Another Tuesday night, in a room without light, there was only pale moonlight. He and I, 2 people, everything was exactly the same as 2 years ago except for the lack of a sinister smell in the air. I'd long given up the fight, so he no longer needed something like that to subdue me. But this night wouldn't be the same as usual. He didn't expect for me to pick up the chair and throw it at his head. He pushed me to the ground. Lee was outraged. He slapped me square in the face twice with both of his hands. I fell to the ground. Everything looked like a blur and I didn't have any more strength to fight back. The chair only broke the phone behind him. I knew I had to be physically stronger to have a chance, but the horrible diet and the mental and physical torture I'd been subjected to was only making me weaker and weaker every day. The door opened. I didn't have to look to know it was Lee. He had seen this scene countless times. He isn't feeling well today. Shall we wait until another day? Hey, pigs were flying. When did he start defending me? I chuckled twice despite my bleeding lips. Who gave you permission to speak? Facing the rage of his uncle, the little bit of courage Lee had mustered up crumbled immediately. He walked out of the room in silence and closed the door behind him. Nothing had changed. Lee took off his belt and gave me an unusual lesson, followed by the usual routine. Nothing had changed. No, that wasn't true. Something had changed. I had changed. I was no longer the same kid from 2 years ago, even though I couldn't really remember what I had been like back then. Nevertheless, I knew one thing for sure. Even if I became a pile of worthless human garbage, I would not stay here forever. I wanted to go home. I had to go home. God, do you hear my wish? Park Sang-yeon. I was lying still on the bed with my eyes closed. I could feel the breeze coming and going. The annoying mosquitoes kept interrupting my thoughts. Damn pests. I flicked the bloody body of a mosquito away like a small booger. Dinner time! A small tray was pushed inside through the tiny window. A bowl of rice, a plate of cabbage, 2 pieces of fried chicken, and a banana. Why do I only get 1 piece of chicken? It says 2. You get 2 pieces of fried chicken. I mean, I get it, that's not a lot of fried chicken. Everyone should have at least like 17 pieces of fried chicken. But the fat man in the opposite cell, it's the other guy, yelled at the guard who was delivering the meals. He didn't get an answer. I picked up the banana from the tray and started peeling it. My diet had actually become much healthier ever since I had been sent here. I had never had a meal on time back at the police station, and the food was always burgers, chicken, fries, and occasionally leftovers that had been around for far too long. There had been a few times that I got to eat some nice meals, though, when Chang Yeon-min would bring over some of his homemade bentos. The kid would always say something like, "A healthy body is necessary to defend justice." I know exactly what we're gonna take from this story and give to the other one, which made him sound like a whiny old lady. But I was starting to miss that kid. I had no idea how he had been doing. He must be in a lot of trouble right now. Or maybe not, I don't know. The people who had framed me must be keeping him out of his case altogether. What had happened to Min-yun was all my fault. On the day I went to rescue Shi-yun, I had tried to get Min-yun to join the mission, but I hadn't been able to reach him. The kid had always been the one person who would never miss a call. It was the first time ever that I couldn't find him. I should have realized that something might have gone wrong then. He never showed up at the police station afterwards either. I told Chan that Min-yun had been sick, but I honestly had no idea where he had been. Turned out that he was dead. And his body had been hidden in my room. He must have known something and they had killed him for it. The murderer must have also known that it was the same day as the anniversary of the lieutenant's death. He even knew that I would be very drunk that day, so he would have a better chance of success. 2 birds with 1 stone. I had some idea of who that bastard could be, but I had no evidence at the moment. I needed to find a way to get out of here first. A tall shadow moved the cell floor. The guards who had brought the tray were still here. He was watching me eat, almost like he was monitoring me. His name was Young Dis. At least that was what I heard the other guards calling him. He was over 2 meters tall and very muscular. He might be the most menacing person in the detention center. Anyone who stood before him might feel like they were standing in front of an impenetrable wall. However, Young had a secret. Detention Center number 6 was a prison that was used to exclusively hold police officers who had been in trouble. They did not belong to the police system and therefore was not under the supervision of the police bureaucracy. Therefore, everyone who had been thrown in here had to go through a ritual. The fat man in the opposite cell was locked up because of a 50 million won bribe. Every day, he and I were forced to strip naked and were blasted by cold water. It wasn't that much different than a cold shower to me. But the fat man, he would be screaming bloody murder every time the water hit him. The more he screamed, however, the more excited the guards would get. For them, it had turned into a kind of entertainment. His reaction, however, seemed a little different than the rest of the cheering mob. One of my best buddies was gay. I could sense the same vibe from him. The fat man yelled at me in a lowered voice. "Hey, can I trade this banana for your chicken?" I said, "Fuck no, what kind of deal is that? Screw you. Trying to take my KFC with a fucking banana." I suddenly had an idea. But I needed somebody's help. 20 minutes later, Young came back to take the trays away. There was something extra in the tray. A small paper note. Now all I could do was wait until the middle of the night. 12 a.m. Most people here had fallen asleep. But I was sitting in a chair in the interrogation room that had been seen numerous occupants. A piece of yellow tape covered my mouth. My hands had been cuffed behind my back. Many brand new scars had been added to the current collection on my body. I had made a mistake. Young was standing under the fluorescent light with a belt in his hands. His uniform was now soaking wet with sweat. Just a moment ago, the belt had hit me on my left eye, which was so bruised that I couldn't even open it anymore. I absolutely hated these simple-minded meatheads, especially when they could overpower me. If he had simply agreed to my proposal, I would have let my buddies find him a new handsome guys. Wait, a few! Not a new, but a few handsome guys as a thank you, then everybody would have been happy. Now he was just torturing me for nobody's benefit. Well, since enticement had not worked out, that left me with the only other choice, threats. Although, how was I supposed to threaten him under the current circumstances that I find myself in? Should I summon that guy? Didn't seem like a good idea. Young seemed like he would never get tired. The pain he had inflicted on me was almost to the edge of what I could tolerate. I'd been trying my best to control it, but in the end, he still woke up. The light from the swinging bulb cast some moving shadows on his impatient face. Idiot. I took out the pen and stabbed it into him. The pen went right through his eye socket and into his brain. He was dead in an instant. So was my consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself back in the cell. It was a different one this time, and there were more guards at the door. I felt my pocket. As usual, there was another note. I opened it, and it said, "Your clothes stink. I told them to get you 2 new sets." That bastard had landed me in such a big mess, and all he cared about was some clean clothing. I now had another life on my hands. Mignon's case was still highly inconclusive, but this one was much more straightforward. I had indeed killed Young. How could this have happened? Damn it. Okay, so we take the food from one and give to the other. Other than that, I don't know. Cool, I can't take the food. So the chair, you still have the pen, and push to the ground. I think. Was hit straight in the face by the chair, lost his balance, fell to the ground. He watched as I broke the handcuffs with my bare hands, and he couldn't process what he was seeing. 1, 2, 3. I stomped his bloody face with my feet over and over again. Jesus Christ. I'd once seen myself break another unfortunate bastard's arm with one stomp. If I kept going, he was going to die. I stepped away from the corner of the dark room and walked towards the center. The mysterious invisible force appeared again almost immediately. It was as if there were numerous dark hands that were pushing on my shoulders, grabbing at my ankles, trying to stop me from walking into the light and regaining control of my body. I was pushed to the ground, but I kept crawling. More hands were grabbing my feet, my legs, and dragging me in the opposite direction. I could not give in. I would not give in. At last, I grabbed my feet. Enough, you bastard. Get out of here. The hands suddenly scattered away. I could see clearly again. Young was crouching in the corner, looking at me with fear. He reminded me of a frightened little rabbit. I had scared him, and he had not realized that the person standing in front of him was a different one now. There was a wallet on the floor. It wasn't mine. I picked it up. There was a few bills, a credit card, and a receipt from a gay bar from only a few days ago, as well as a family photo. A beautiful wife, a lovely daughter. What a happy family. The happy ladies surely had no idea of the secret life that the husband and father of the family had been leading. The little rabbit had no other choice. Complete the profile of Park Sang-young. Boy interrupted. Achievement unlocked. Oh! Well, it seems like we got an S rank with the other story. That seems like it was a decent outcome. It was brutal, but decent. I plunged the pen deep into his throat. He stumbled back, pulled out the pen and threw it on the floor. Lots of blood was gushing out on the hole in his neck. I could see that he wanted to kill me very badly. However, with one hand covering his wound, he tripped and lost his balance, making a mess of his office. Soon he was lying on the floor with his eyes wide open, but he was no longer breathing. He was dead, but that was too good for him. Before anyone noticed what had happened, I quickly searched the entire room. I found his hospital keycard, some cash, and a Swiss Army knife. I ripped his clothes and pants off him and put them on myself so that mine wouldn't get bloody. Then but you know what? Fair. Also, still, I mean, it's getting brutal again, but fair. In that moment, I felt so relieved. Even the air in the room felt suddenly cleansed. I opened the window and slid down the drain pipe. The security guard on duty was watching TV in his office at the main gate. I ducked down and snuck past his window, opened the main gate with a swipe of the keycard and ran outside. Finally, I was free. Finally, I could go home. I walked all the way home with the flimsy clothes I was wearing. I walked past Alex's seafood store. I walked past Sue Me's family bakery. I walked past a tobacco and alcohol store that had forgotten to lock up. I picked up the most expensive bottle of vodka from the shelf. It was for my dad. Twice a week, 8 times a month, multiplied by 12, 90, 96, 20 times 2 on the 192. Let me round it up to 200, I don't know. I was walking briskly. At the same time, I was quietly calculating how many times Mom had been hit by Dad for the past 2 years. Just as an estimate, you know? It was almost sunrise when I finally saw my familiar yet strange home. As I expected, Dad was sound asleep. I changed into Mom's favorite coat. Then I went into the kitchen and picked up the knife that Mom used to cut meat. At last I came to my dad's bed. Dad, I'm home. 1, 2, 3. 66, 67. Split, 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 split. The sound of the knife... Oh, God. The sound of the knife going in and out of his body was almost a musical melody. 122, 123, 124, 99, 200. Blood was splashed all over the bed and the floor. It was disgusting. I sprinkled the vodka that I brought home and all around the bed and the room. Then I lit a match. Bye-bye, Dad. Bye-bye, Mom. The small flame was jumping and growing. It was becoming bigger and bigger. In the end, it grew so big that it swallowed this place I used to call home. I had never seen anything more beautiful. From the ashes, I would start a brand new life. Phoenix from the ashes. Progress unlocked. Park Sang-young. Escape from the asylum. Achievement unlocked. Oh! We ended with a first try double S rank. S for shit, that was brutal. But yeah. I think we need to leave this one here. We still got something with Alice. It seems like we rounded up Park now. We ain't probably not gonna get more from him. We concluded his story. I wonder what we'll conclude in the next. For now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you in the next one. Alright, I'm out.